I was just having a look. I just wanted to see the demographics and see the videos that people have seemed to respond well to, the videos that seem to be helping people. And one of the videos that stood out to me, I did a series, was a video called, I like the title actually, I came up with it, was called "You Suffer Social Anxiety Because You Wear a Mask." So I had a look at the video and I was just looking at the comments, and I don't always do this, but I just wanted to see, as I said, the videos that are doing well and get an understanding of what people need and what I've said and what seems to be touching people and helping them with their social anxiety and social confidence. And I thought that was actually a really good title that I came up with. That came to me when I was in the park. It just came to me because that's exactly how social anxiety felt for me, my personal experience with having it and overcoming it. It was a constant wearing a mask, and it's not just, I talk about wearing the mask, but I talk about the actual consequences of, feeling self-betrayal, feeling self-hate, feelings of distrust, feeling frustrated, that you're always nervous around people, you're anxious, you're being judged, all of the consequences that come from not living a life of honesty and truth and hiding all the time. That's how I felt. So I wanted to add on this video, and really this video topic is going to be called, and it's a harsh thing as well, I've been worried about using this title, but it's the truth and I'm going to get into it. This title is called, now I'm just going to add to it and say why you wear a mask because you have social anxiety, or why I used to wear a mask. This video is called "Why I Used to Hate People. I Thought Everyone Hated Me and I Didn't Trust Anyone." That's really the title. So the title is really "Why I Used to Hate People and I Thought Everyone Hated Me." Now, before I go into this, I just want to say that, of course, I'm really fascinated with social anxiety. Reason being because I had it for many years of my life. I've overcome it. I'm super passionate about it. I've dedicated my life to not only, to teaching people this, obviously making a full-time job out of it, and just having a passion that I can't even describe to you. The passion I've got for helping people with social anxiety is more passion than I had at the time with getting good with women at that time and teaching that, and that was something I was really passionate about, and that was unconsciously born out of my anxieties myself, overcoming them and helping other people to overcome them. And what am I talking about? Still overcoming anxieties, because I'm still worried, like we all are, of being judged. I still have that fear, and that's a very healthy fear, and I'm going to get into that in a second. So I want to talk about hate, and the reason I want to talk about hate is because not enough people talk about it. I've gone online and I've read lots of blogs on social anxiety, and I'm not criticising them. Some of the blogs have been really good, very well written, they're very informative, they're a lot more professional than my blogs, because, I don't know, I'm a good writer, but my style is just raw. I just write and I make mistakes, but I tell the truth. So lots of these articles, like they've been written by doctors or psychologists, but for me personally, they seem to lack truth. They seem to lack something that's quite raw and deeply heartfelt and honest. And none of these articles, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't come across these ones, none of these articles talk about self-hate. They don't talk about the actual aspect that you hate people when you've got social anxiety, and you don't really hate them out of choice. This is an unconscious fear, and of course it comes to the conscious. Of course you hate people. That's where social anxiety derives from. You think people are judging you, you think that they are harshly judging you, and you think that they don't like you. That's one of the big reasons why you're scared of people, aside of many other deeper aspects. But hate is a very real emotion. I think, could be wrong, but I'm willing to be wrong, and I think I'm right. I think hate is a word that a lot of people in our society are not comfortable speaking about, because it hasn't got a nice connotation. It's an uncomfortable word, and it's a vicious word, but it's the truth. And that's how I felt for many years. And that I'm going to go into that feeling of hate because, like I said, I've said this before, no one is born hateful, not in my understanding. I know that genes get passed on, and some things are hereditary, but I think most people, if not all people, are born quite pure and innocent and loving and vulnerable. but it's the experiences we have. So I wasn't hateful when I was 7, 8, 6 growing up. I started to develop this self-hate and this feeling of anger, rage and hate towards other human beings, if I can remember rightly, about the age 12, 13, 14, because hate was passed on to me. When I was younger, and I remember I was about 13, my dad said something awful to me that destroyed me, shattered my confidence, made me feel hate towards him, hate, resentment, confusion, and that went straight back to how I felt myself, because when I was about 13, 14, I was in the middle of expressing myself completely freely and honestly and being vulnerable with my mum, laughing and joking, we were getting on well. And I've said this before many times, but it's relevant for this video. My dad looked at me and said to me, he gave me a really angry look of disgust, and I could read that non-verbal expression on his face, and he said to me something along the lines of, I can't exactly remember now, because my memories, as you get older, you forget, but it's something along the lines of, you sound, and he'd done his face, you sound really stupid, you know how stupid you sound, behave yourself, or something like that. And even at one time, I've said before, words like calling me a cunt and calling me stupid. So these words are very, very hurtful and harmful when you're 13, 12. It's very different now. I'm 32 years of age, or being 25 and going out and someone saying, oh, you know, sorry my language, you're a wanker, or I think you're a cunt. All right, that's going to annoy you, but you could brush it up and just say it's just an idiot, or someone's drunk, but when your dad says it, who at that time for me, my dad was like God to me. Everything that my dad said was the gospel truth. So if my dad said it, it must have been true. And I was only about 13 at the time, so I didn't have the life experience, and I hadn't fully formed my identity to be able to discern that what he said may not be true. And it certainly wasn't true in my mum's case. Obviously, my mum got involved and got really upset towards him. And I've written about this and said that it left me feeling really confused and really betrayed, and it made me feel uncomfortable around my family, and it later on to make me feel socially uncomfortable growing up, because I felt that, well, I could trust my mum, but I couldn't trust my dad. And these feelings altered and changed according to how I felt on the day. So of course, when I say you hate people, it's true, but I don't believe you hate people all the time. Obviously those feelings change. I'm telling you, this is my experience. So I didn't hate people 24 hours a day, thank God. That would have been exhausting. That wouldn't have been a nice place to be at. But under the surface, that hate was there. And of course, that hate was in my body. I was feeling that. And that was wearing me out. It was causing me to have all sorts of personality disorders. And this wasn't no choice of my own. You can't choose at 13 or 12 to stop feeling what you feel. Your emotions don't lie. It's a great saying, your emotions don't lie. So I think for whatever reason, people that write blogs online about social anxiety, I'm not saying that they're lying, because it's true what they say, that the dictionary definition of social phobia is embarrassment and the fear of being judged. That's stating the obvious, we know that, but we need to go into the depths of where does this come from, and why does a person feel this enormous fear of being judged by people? Because ultimately we're all afraid of being judged by one another. I'm sure, partly unconscious, when I put videos out, there's a big part of me that's worried that I'm going to be judged, and that actually inspires me and excites me. And this actually does the opposite for me now. This makes me feel love, it makes me feel good, it makes me connect with people, it makes me be a good teacher, and it helps me to express myself. But back then I didn't have this understanding, I didn't have the self-esteem. So it's just not being spoken about enough, or I certainly haven't seen these blogs, but I've got the chance to change that, which I am. I've got the chance to write the truth in what I experienced, and to put out my experience, and to explain how I overcome these feelings, from feeling hate towards people, that I can't trust anyone, and that everyone is harshly judging me. And of course we all make judgments about one another, if we're being honest. When we walk down the street, you're doing it all the time. You might look over, if you're a guy, and say, she's nice, she's a nice girl, she's got a nice body. That guy, not sure about him, he looks trouble. We all do that, we've got an ego chatter. And that's very human, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. And I'm sure you've come onto my videos, maybe you're in a bad mood one day and you come on and you might feel hate towards me. I don't take it personal. That's just how you feel at that moment. Someone upset you, you might not have liked what I said in the video, or some people just don't like how I look. And we understand all this as human beings, and we know this, but I feel if we don't speak about these things, what I'm doing now, this is therapeutic. If we don't exercise these feelings in a positive way, which is to speak about it, and I guess be rational, and be diplomatic or politically correct and all the other words, we're not going to derive from this feeling of hate to love, or this feeling of compassion. We're just going to hold it, carry it, and it's going to continue. And for many years growing up, I used to worry that if people knew what was actually going on in my head and what I felt, they wouldn't want to be friends with me. But it's really interesting that, again, that hasn't been true. It's been the opposite. Over the years, me being vulnerable and sharing my truths has connected me with people. It's built an industry. It's built a platform all around the world, because there's lots of people that have either felt how I've been feeling or have experienced that. So of course, bullying, and that was what my dad did, and I got bullied at school. Bullying, lack of intimacy in families, it's been spoken about lots of times, and I've said it before. Gabor Mate does a great job. He's someone I really respect and admire, really honest in what he talks about and his own insecurities and fears as a human being and a man with anxieties, and the way he's been able to help so many people. He's certainly inspired me. So I think that hate is the essence of social anxiety. It's self-hate, and you project it out. And of course, and I've just done an article about this. This is the what all spiritual teaching is about. What we feel on the inside, we project out into the world. So if we feel jealous, or if we feel hateful, if we feel paranoid, you start to see that outside in your reality. And that's been true for me as well. And this truth came later. So all these truths I've stumbled in over a lifetime's worth of research into this social anxiety. And I've almost got this thirst and hunger to end it out of humanity. I don't know if I've got the capability to do that, but I'm certainly going to make a difference, because I've seen the damage that it did for me at one stage in my life and what it does to other people. But I've also seen, of course, how it's transformed my life and how it's enabled me to transform other people's lives. So I think if we talk about hate, we don't feel ashamed, and of course we don't feel judged too harshly, we can liberate ourselves from that place of hate and get into a place of love. So like I said, my dad was one of the causes of my social anxiety. I was wearing a mask for many years. When I spoke to my mum not too long ago, obviously the feelings have changed now, and my mum, and I didn't take it personal because I really love my mum. I've got a good relationship with her. I'm actually seeing my mum later today. My mum had said to me, what's wrong with you? You've changed. Your eyes have changed, and have you become a born-again Christian? You've become religious? And I basically explained to my mum that I've overcome my social anxiety. So the reason it's very apparent that my personality's changed, my energy changed, and maybe my relationship towards my mum's changed, is because I've worked on myself. And thank God I don't hate people anymore. Of course I get days if I've had someone's upset me. We can feel a feeling of hate or anger, but that's human emotion, that's being normal. But to feel that underlining, constant inner monologue that bullies you, and a feeling of anger and hate and shame and self-hate and confusion and embarrassment, those feelings have really been exercised out of me. So I explained this to my mum. Of course, I understand, like most mums, she was concerned and she was confused and she cried. And I think I cried, I can't remember, maybe I did. But I just said to her, I'm really grateful, I'm really confident in myself. My mum said, all I've ever wanted is for you to be happy. And I said, well, I'm very happy, and now I'm helping other people. So I think my point is that the mask will not be taken off if these conversations are not met and not had. And I'm just intuitive. This comes about from my own experience, I've said, and from having taught. I've just lost count. I don't know how many men it is, and now women, people that have been in the same predicament. One thing that comes to mind that I thought was really humorous, I won't say his name, he's one of my good friends and students that I worked with over 12 weeks. And I say this to a lot of people, and of course sometimes I say it as a teacher, and I mean good when I say it, but sometimes we're ignorant to our own ignorance. And I said one day, I think it was in the first session, I won't say his name, I said, listen, all you've got to do is to be honest with people when you're speaking to them about how you feel. And he said to me, yeah, all right, so So it was just so true. It was so honest how he said it. I laughed, we both laughed, and I loved his honesty. And he said, all right, so can I tell people that I think they're an absolute cunt? Sorry, I'm using bad language, but, and the reason I laughed because, you know, I had to recorrect what I said and understand how he felt, because I felt the same. I know how it feels to feel social anxiety, to feel that you can't trust anyone and people are judging you. And it feels so personal, and to feel that you want to swear at people, you want to strangle them and shout, because you're hurt, you've got childhood trauma. So I laughed and he laughed, and I went, well, no, obviously you can't be that honest. I don't want you to go out and say to people that you think people are an effing cunt. So we have to change the language and find a more suitable language. but of course, he's a lovely person. He went on and he transformed his life. He did a talk at my one of my events, made massive changes, and he's on his own journey, and he massively helped me as well. He helped me, because when I teach people, it helps me back. It helps me to do these videos. It helps me to explain better what I'm learning and what I'm teaching, and what has helped me to overcome social anxiety. Because I might say in one video, you might hear me say, well, what helped me to overcome social anxiety was getting into a day game and pick up and learning how to meet women. And that's partially true. In another video, you might hear me say, well, actually doing day game and pick up gave me more social anxiety. What helped me in spirituality? So I guess it's just going into further truths, and all these things played a part in helping me. Some things more than others, but definitely the truth has always helped. And it's always been the uncomfortable truth. Like I said in the blogs, people don't seem to write about the definition of social anxiety is that not that you just think people are judging you, you think they hate you and you hate them back. I've had loads of conversations with people I've worked with, and I've said to them, you're an amazing person, you're lovely, you've got a really good personality, and you're actually really confident. Like, well, I don't feel that. I actually think people hate me. And I think people are judging me, and I've sometimes worked with students and they've said, well, I think you're judging me as well, Johnny. I'm like, well, I'm certainly not judging you. I'm here to help you and I love you, because how could I judge you? I've been through this myself. Had a lifetime of growing up thinking that everyone else hates me. So the reason it's dangerous to deny your feelings if you do feel hate towards people, because you feel people hate you, because that denial will affect you, and it will actually probably create these things in the world. It will create you to get into fights. It will cause situations of dysfunctional relationships. Of course, this is coming from experience. That's why for so many years I had so many dysfunctional relationships in my relationships, because when people started to be nice to me, I was very skeptical whether it was genuine and I could trust it, because of the relationship I had with my dad. And I grew up for many years, and I told my mum this, and she was quite shocked, but it was the truth. I thought my dad hated me. I thought he couldn't stand me. I thought he was jealous of me. I thought he was threatened by me. I thought he was intimidated by me. And I thought that he didn't like me as a son. And I'm not seeking sympathy. I'm not trying to get likes and subscribers, but that's how I felt. And I had a right to feel that. And again, moving on to childhood trauma and childhood abuse, this is what causes social anxiety. And this is, again, I don't see enough people talking about it. Only Gabor Mate and Johnny Berba, who is recognised through, again, his lifetime of research, he's a lot older than me, and his own experience that addictions, traumas, and drug abuse, and all these other things that derive from abuse contribute to self-hate. Self-hate is self-harming. That's why lots of people, and I include myself in this, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, and I'm not embarrassed about it, that's why lots of men and women go and pay for sex. They go and pay for sex because they feel hate towards themselves. They've got low self-esteem, and they feel that they can't be loved and they can't find love anywhere else. And it's easy for people to say, oh, come on, don't be so soft, don't be so you know, whatever people say, all these different things. And that's how I used to feel. I had this inner voice feeling like that. My dad made me feel that way. But it's the truth. You know, you can't write that off. People like Russell Brand have spoken about how people demonize and judge and label drug addicts and say that they're criminals. But in actual fact, if you actually do further research and be more patient and go to the truth, well, they're not initially criminals. They're in pain. They've got addictions. They've got an illness. And social anxiety is an illness. I'm not saying you should excuse people's behaviour, and if someone's got social anxiety or trauma, it's okay for them to go around and commit crimes, and I never said that. I never said that, but I'm just saying we need a little bit more intelligence, a little bit of more human compassion and empathy, and to understand why a person would be feeling that. And this brings me on to another horrifying, beautiful story that I've seen. I can't remember where it was one day. You could probably look it up. I can't remember the title. It was quite a gruesome title. It drew me in. It was something like "A Child from Hell," something like that. It was the most tragic, upsetting, but in the end it turned out a lovely story, like all the stories I share in this video. This young girl had been sexually abused, I think by a dad or a carer, and it looked like she was possessed, and I'm not joking, like something like The Exorcist. She was so angry, and she was, she tried to kill her own brother. She tried to kill her brother, and I think she killed a few pets. I think memory serves me correct. And that was because, and she was a beautiful young girl. As a kid, she was about 4, 5, 6, and you've seen the psychologist do an interview of her, and she had no empathy. So she was a psychopath, bless her. But that's no fault of her own, that's because she was abused, and she was full of hate, and you could see it in her eyes, and she was saying in the thing, I want to kill people, and her mum, her foster parents, I believe, had to run down one day and stop her from killing I think her brother or her stepbrother. And I was crying. I was so sad by this, because it was just horrible to see a kid going through this. It was an innocent, beautiful young girl, but had been mistreated and projected that on because she was full of hate, because it was passed on to her, and she had to be retrained. And interestingly enough, on the topic of hate and abuse and social anxieties and phobias, and I'd seen years later she turned her life around with counselling, with healing, and she looked absolutely beautiful woman. You could see love in her eyes, and I think she got married, and she had to learn to rebuild trust and have empathy and understand right from wrong. And I feel, I'm not going to go that extreme with myself, but there's a lot of truth in that. I had to learn to, because I was probably like yourself, I was very sensitive, in the midst of hating people because I thought they hated me. Of course, I was a very emotional person, and I'd feel guilty for feeling those feelings, but it didn't take those feelings away. So I had to learn to rebuild myself, and that was through taking off the mask. And that metaphor for wearing a mask is saying, I'm wearing a mask because I think everyone hates me, I don't trust anyone. I'm not going to put out my true personality, because the last time I did, I was attacked by my dad, and I was also attacked in school. I was attacked on many levels, verbal and physical. And that's why I was always fighting in school. And teachers would call my mum up and say, I can't understand it, your son is violent, he just lost his temper. But the teachers didn't understand what was going on. And I'm not blaming them, I'm not saying it's their fault, but maybe in schools they need to teach classes on social skills and love and empathy. There's a huge need for this, there's a huge need for more understanding, because social anxiety it's everywhere. I've taught people from all different backgrounds, different walks of life, and lots of people that have it, you wouldn't even know they have it because they keep it bottled up. And that's why I do these videos. I expose this to help people bring it out, and only through bringing it out and actually practicing self-love, and like I've said in the spiritual, and Gabor Mate is on the same wavelength as me, through identifying your true self. That's how you're not going to self-heal. If you don't love yourself and you feel ashamed and you have hate towards yourself, you're going to project that onto other people. And of course, it's not fair on other people that don't know you feel this way and they want to make a friendship with you. And that's why I feel so many men, again, who got into pickup were getting in unconsciously because they're trying to find love, trauma from family or school, how they were brought up, form of social anxiety. And that's why there's lots of dysfunctional relationships in the way they go about in meeting women. I did this myself. So this is one of the ways I turned it around and changed that feeling from feeling hate and actually loving people. Just over many years, how I went from feeling hate and rage towards people and distrust to actually loving people, liking people through the actual process, or whatever you want to call it, of developing that relationship with myself and changing my projection, how I felt about people. And that came through time, and that came through gaining reference experience and retrusting people. And the main thing that I had to do, I had to go and confront my dad years later, and that was in the midst of doing other things, and I'll speak about that in another video. And I've spoken about a lot of this stuff. I know I'll repeat myself, and people say, oh, you said that in your last video, but I've got to keep saying it. If you watch most people that I look up to, there's many people. I don't know, one that comes to mind is Alan Watts Gabor-Mate. They repeat lots of the same things in their talks because it needs to be heard again and it needs to be explained maybe in a different way. It's the same meaning. So I'm really talking about the transition from fear to love, or from self-hate to self-love and loving other people, or at least loving more people. Obviously, we can't get along with everyone. That's just how life is. So, where was I? What was my point? My point was, I had to confront this fear, to take this mask off. And my dad was the person who put a lot of shame on me, embarrassment, distrust, all those negative emotions, jealousy, denial, all of these feelings I had towards my dad, which projected onto lots of other people. Although in the midst of this, I had lots of friends that I loved. But of course, there were parts of me that were feeling hate and wanted to protect myself, and rightly so. It was not my fault, but my responsibility and your responsibility. So when I went and spoke to my dad and confronted him, those last bits of residue or anger or shame or anything that was on the unconscious that I didn't want in my body and I didn't want to put into my relationships with anyone around me, myself included, my family and my dad, I got rid of it by confronting him in a very respectful way. And it took me years to build the confidence to go and confront him and basically say, I'm giving back what you put on me, which is not mine, doesn't belong to me, I'm giving it back to you. And I did that. So this is what I've said to people: you can do what I did, you don't have to go my route, but I feel this conversation and this time that we're spending now, I feel there's going to be some really good coming out of this, and it excites me to do this. And as I said, it's never always comfortable doing these videos. I'd much rather speak about something a lot more romantic and light, which I will do, social confidence or how to attract women, or I love talking about spirituality or how to become successful in your business, all these areas that excite me. But this excites me as well because it's not comfortable. But if we don't do the uncomfortable, we don't get to the comfortable. And that's the metaphor for social anxiety. It's not a comfortable practice. My teaching that I teach the guys on the 6 weeks program, it's not a comfortable practice because you have to first admit and take responsibility for your childhood trauma, your pain that could make you feel that it's unfair why you've been treated this way. That's how you change it, that's how you heal. So I hope you've got something out of this video. I wanted to share that and remind you, if you are feeling hate towards people, don't be hard on yourself. I'm not offended because that's not your true self. I don't believe anyone truly hates people 100%. So that's just what you're going through. That's just the trauma that you need to exercise out of you and heal. And over time, those feelings will change. And I've spoken about my teaching, a truth that I've found. It's not fully my truth, it's a truth that's in the world. It was found amongst many great teachers. It's in many different scriptures. It's been talked about by gurus, and it's the practice of self-love. And we get to self-love through honesty, and all these different routes I'm saying lead to the same route. And I've done it, I've achieved it, and I've taught people to do it, and I'm very, very confident that you can do the same, whether you're a man or woman watching this, old, young. Social anxiety. And I will say social anxiety is not in the people, it's in the person. When you get out of yourself, you feel a lot more comfortable around people, and then you go to what I call having a healthy amount of social fear, which is healthy fear of being judged by people, because as I've said, we're all afraid of being judged by one another. Let's not play games, let's not try and pretend. Just because I'm confident now and my self-esteem is really healthy and I'm a teacher, I still care about people judging me and saying bad things, but my tolerance to judgment is a lot more higher now that I've built my self-esteem and I know who I am. Well, back then I was so brittle, I was so sensitive. Any criticism would have destroyed me, made me react angry, violently, emotionally, all in these negative emotions. So we can derive from fear to love through getting better at managing these things and not feeling all sensitive and getting upset because we have a day where we feel we hate everyone. As I said, you might come and have a really bad day, come on video and say, oh, I hate this guy, and the next day, and don't feel bad if you've done it, because we're all human. You might say, I love this guy, I love what he's saying. So we're human, but to be in a place of hate all the time is not healthy and it's not true. Love you, enjoyed the process.